I pretended to be blind and caught my own brother cheating on me with my wife. I sat on my dining table, looking at them, but pretending not to see, as my wife Selma placed a spoonful of rice on my plate. "You need to eat more, love. You barely touched your food yesterday," she said to me, but her eyes were budding playfully at my brother Rami. Sitting on the other side of the table, Rami leaned in, his voice light. "He's saving room for dessert. Isn't that right, big brother?" I smiled faintly. "I'm just not that hungry." Selma giggled, brushing her fingers against Rami's as she reached for the salt. "Well, someone here has an appetite." Rami smirked, letting his hand linger against hers. "I always do, especially when the food's this good." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, eyes never leaving him. "You say that every time I cook." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "That's because it's true. You make everything taste better." I shifted in my seat, trying to focus on the sounds of their voices. "What are you two whispering about?" they said. I was lucky to survive. The accident had crushed half my ribs, fractured my skull, and stolen my sight. I woke up in a hospital bed, to a world of black, no shapes, no shadows, just voices and touch. But I wasn't alone. My wife Selma was there when I wanted to give up. My younger brother Rami was always nearby. Every day, everything. Selma softly brushed my hair back. "You're burning up again. I'll get the cool towel, love." I swallowed hard. "I feel like I'm floating, or sinking. I can't tell." She kissed my hand, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're here, you're safe. That's all that matters." "I hate this," I said. "The dark, the silence. I feel useless." "You're not useless," she murmured. "You're mine, and I'll carry you until you can stand again." She lifted a spoon to my lips. "Open. It's warm, just how you like it." I obeyed, tasting the broth. "You don't have to do all this." "I want to," she said, wiping my chin gently. "I'm your wife. I made vows, remember?" Rami stepped closer, a book tucked under his arm. "Want me to read something?" I turned my head toward his voice. "Sure, something with rhythm. I need to feel something real." He flipped the pages, clearing his throat. "I do not love you, as if you were Saltros or Topaz." I smiled faintly. "Pablo Neruda. You remembered?" Rami chuckled. "Of course I did. You used to recite it to impress girls." "Did it work?" I asked. "Not really," he said, laughing. "But it made you sound deep." He sat beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Listen, I know this is hell, but I'm here. Will be your eyes, brother, as long as you need me." I felt my throat tighten. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you both." Selma squeezed my hand. "You'll never have to find." I believed them. I trusted them. I loved them. Months passed. Doctors said my sight might return. Might. I didn't tell anyone. Not Selma, not Rami. I wanted it to be a surprise. I imagined the moment. Me standing in the living room, eyes wide, smiling, saying, "I can see you." I thought they'd cry. I thought they'd celebrate. But the day my vision returned, I didn't speak. It was morning, quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a held breath. I opened my eyes, like I always did out of habit, not hope. And there it was. Light, not just light, but shape, color, the window, the curtain, her coat, hanging on the chair. I thought I was dreaming. I blinked once. Twice, the world didn't vanish. I could see again, and I didn't tell a soul. I saw, and what I saw broke me. It started with a kiss. Brushed hands when they thought I couldn't see a thing. On the dining table, as we sat to eat. I looked on. As the two flirted, I felt my appetite evaporating. Selma placed a spoonful of rice on my plate. "You need to eat more, love. You barely touched your food yesterday." Rami leaned in, his voice light. "He's saving room for dessert. Isn't that right, big brother?" I smiled faintly. "I'm just not that hungry." Selma giggled, brushing her fingers against Rami's as she reached for the salt. "Well, someone here has an appetite." Rami smirked, letting his hand linger against hers. "I always do, especially when the food's this good." She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, eyes never leaving him. "You say that every time I cook." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "That's because it's true. You make everything taste better." I shifted in my seat, trying to focus on the sounds of their voices. "What are you two whispering about?" Selma laughed, her tone playful. "Just teasing your brother. He's always trying to charm his way into the kitchen." Rami nudged her knee under the table, "And she never kicks me out." She bit her lip, her voice soft. Why would I? I like the company. I reached for my glass, fingers fumbling slightly. You two seem to get along well. Rami's voice was smooth. We've always had a good rhythm, haven't we, Selma? She nodded, her hand resting lightly on his arm. Some people just click. I felt a strange chill run down my spine. They thought I couldn't see, but I saw everything. Her fingers traced his wrist. His eyes locked on hers. The way they leaned into each other, laughing at jokes I wasn't part of. I chewed slowly, pretending not to notice. Pretending I was still blind. I stood up, got my walking rod, and walked to my room in thoughts of what I could do. Another day, as I was thinking to just let go. After all, I didn't want to break family. I didn't want to be the reason. I was sitting on the couch, pretending to nap. I saw Selma walk in. Rami followed. They didn't know. She turned to him, smiling in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. He touched her waist. She leaned in. They kissed. I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe. They thought I was blind. They thought I couldn't see, so they didn't hide. Days turned into weeks. I said nothing. I watched everything. They flirted in the kitchen. They held hands when they thought I was asleep. They whispered in corners, laughed in ways they never laughed with me. And I sat there, eyes open, heart closed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask, was I ever enough? But I stayed silent, because silence was my weapon now. I remembered the accident, how Rami had pulled me from the wreckage, how Selma had cried beside my hospital bed. I remembered their promises, their devotion, their lies, and I wondered, had it started before the accident? Had I been blind long before I lost my sight? One evening, I stood in the doorway of the living room. They were there, laughing, touching. I cleared my throat. They froze. I have something to tell you, I said. Selma stepped forward. What is it, love? I looked at her, then, at Rami. I can see. Silence. Her face drained of color. Rami stepped back. Since when? He whispered. Long enough, I said. Long enough to see everything. They tried to explain. Selma cried. Rami begged. They said it was a mistake. They said it was confusion. They said it was comfort, and turned into something else. I listened. Then, I packed my bags. I left the house that night. Not because I was angry, but because I was done being lied to, done being pitied, done being blind to the truth. I moved into a small apartment, started therapy, started painting, something I hadn't done since college. And every stroke was a release, every canvas, a confession. Now, I live quietly. I see the world clearly, not just with my eyes, but with my soul. I've learned that betrayal doesn't always come with knives. Sometimes it comes with soft hands and familiar voices. But I've also learned that healing begins when you stop pretending. And I no longer pretend. I see, I feel, live. And that, I've found, is enough. Life was too good to be caught in such life. I don't hate them. I just started to love myself more. And from that day on, I decided to leave, for myself. If my story moved you even just a little, do me a small favor. Leave a comment. Give it a heart. Like it, if it spoke to you. And if you want to walk deeper into this journey with me, come watch my videos on YouTube. Your views, your support, your presence, it means more than you know.